Hey guys, Godfather of Anxiety here. Just wanted to do a video about my experience with health anxiety. Also, what I think kind of laid the groundwork for me to have health anxiety, as well as, the different types of health anxiety that I've experienced over the last 22 years. So, I just want to, get it out there so that you guys know if you're having similar issues, you can rest assured that most likely it is anxiety, and hopefully save yourself a lot of time and a lot of worry. So as far as why I think I developed health anxiety, and it was funny, in doing the research for this video, I realized that my health anxiety actually even preceded my panic attacks. If I'm being 100% honest, and that's what I always try to do with my videos, I actually did have a bout of health anxiety, before I had panic attacks. But I'll get into that. Anyways, looking back on my childhood, there were some things that happened and, that laid the groundwork for me to be extremely cognizant and aware of health issues. I've told you guys in another video that when I was 9 years old, I had a younger sibling, pass away at 3 years old with leukemia. As much as this did bring our family closer together, and I know a lot of families, a lot of parents, get divorced after something tragic like that. It actually brought our family closer together. I give my parents a lot of credit for that, but it definitely, at a very young age, and again, if you follow the channel, you'll know that I had issues with worrying about big things even before my brother was diagnosed. So this was like a double whammy. It kind of reinforced some of that unnatural worry that seems to be genetic, that was in me from the start. And it reinforced it because the horrible thing actually did happen, right? And so I think that laid the groundwork for some of my issues with health anxiety. Also, when I look back on it, it's extremely obvious that my mother battled health anxiety. She would think that she was on her way out, and she would even talk about it, and again, I'm not trying to disparage my mother at all, because for large chunks of my time growing up, she did not do this. But when she was in a state of health anxiety, she would go get a bunch of tests done. She would think she was dying. She would say she thought she was dying. And it's so funny because, I have repeated that cycle. Again, I didn't know. I thought, and again, a lot of the times with health anxiety, there is some underlying physiological thing, right? But it's not, it's something that you should pay this much attention to, and you're paying this much attention to it. And it takes something that, okay, you go to the doctor, you get treated, and you move on, to something that's, you're dying, and, you're catastrophizing, and your life is ruined because you just know that this is going to kill you, this is going to be your demise, and it's always the worst thing, We always end up worrying about the worst things. But anyway, so I think having a mom, obviously, who had anxiety, I don't know if you guys can see this in the video. I just did a video on benign fasciculation syndrome. My eye is twitching right now, so maybe it'll stop. But anyways, my mom having anxiety disorder, having health anxiety, and some tragedies happening when I was young. I spoke of my brother already. Also, we lost a lot of people in my family in a very, very short amount of time. I especially look back at that now and see how ridiculous that was. All I'll say, without getting into detail about this, is that my teacher didn't believe me when I had an excuse that I was attending a funeral, because I had attended so many funerals that year. And that was, of course, the same year that my brother passed away. So, there were some things that laid the groundwork for me to be hyper aware or extremely aware of my mortality, and also of, these people were dying from different things. I had, lung cancer, breast cancer. I could go on and on, about different things that these people passed away of, complications from diabetes. There was a lot of different things that, was leading to these deaths in my family. So, and that's my extended family. We were a big family, but we were close with, even extended family. So, that probably laid some of the groundwork for this. In my teens and through most of my 20s, I did not have health anxiety. I was, Superman, basically, when it comes to my nervous system. I did things that would challenge me right now, for sure, from a nervous system standpoint. I'm not saying that I couldn't do it, but, I would probably need a couple days to recover from, and I didn't even think about it, Of course, that's a lot of the key. But then, and doing the research for this video, my first real bout of health anxiety came when I was 28. And it started, simple enough. I noticed I had a lump, and, it was bothering me. I made an appointment, and, and then right at that same time, I found out another person I grew up with, had testicular cancer. And so I started to really get consumed. And then simultaneously, my daughter was 2. And I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but the stakes get raised when you have children, right? I think for men and women, right? I mean, when you have somebody, another life depending on you, it's like the stakes go from here to here, Yes, when you get married, you want to take care of each other, but heaven forbid something happen, that person's going to be able to move on without you. It's not going to, but when you have children, then you really start thinking about things you take things a little more seriously. You start to, so anyways, so I noticed that, and it started to really weigh on my mind. And I started going through all those things that I went through later on when I had full-blown health anxiety. I wouldn't say it was full-blown health anxiety, but I was obsessing about it. I remember basically when I did finally have the ultrasound done, I was, almost like resigned to the fact that this was something terrible, and, I was probably cashing out. And, sure enough, it was completely benign. I had nothing to worry about, but I had already delved into wasting time worrying with that episode of health anxiety. It was nothing compared to what happened after I really developed full-blown panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder and such, but it was enough where it interfered with my life. And, I was more worried than a normal person should be. It's natural to be concerned if you notice a lump or a freckle or something that's not supposed to be there, and that there's, a potential correlation with a life-threatening disease. That's normal, right? But this, I can assure you guys, this went beyond that. Fortunately, at the time, the only way I could get on the internet was going to a relative's house. My wife and I were kind of slow with, delving into the internet, especially like phones and all that. We just were a little slow with that. So, and that was probably a good thing in retrospect. So anyways, that was my first experience with it. Then in 2003, I had my first panic attack. And I would say within a month of that, I had full-blown health anxiety. Full-blown, like completely ridiculous health anxiety. I wrote down a list of things that I have had health anxiety about and what I thought was wrong. Because I want you guys to understand the lunacy that goes on when you have health anxiety. And it will literally attach to anything. And the level of conviction that you have that your demise is imminent and this is what you have, especially for an intelligent person, is hard to get your mind around. But here goes. This is some of the things. The first thing I think I was thinking about is that I had a brain tumor, because after I had my panic attack, I was super dizzy. I had vision issues. I had a floater magically appear. I'd never heard anyone in my whole life. I was, how many years? 31 years on Earth. I never heard anyone talk about getting black spots in their vision and strings that don't go away. I never heard of that. So that was, I had dizziness. I had very bad headaches too, and I never had headaches, dizziness. So I was thinking, initially brain tumor. I also was having horrible, horrible stomach issues. So for a time I was convinced I had bowel cancer. I had tests done, throughout my whole digestive tract. And of course, the big diagnosis there was acid reflux disease, which is fairly common. And it's no joke. I mean, if you guys out there suffer with that, it can, you got to pay attention to it for sure. And you got to watch how you eat and everything and how you lay. And there is real ramifications to that. But so I was worried about having bowel cancer, heart issues. This was huge too, because again, the dizziness. And then when you start having panic attacks, your breathing is going to be off. So guess what? You're going to get out of breath really easy. And to deal with the stress simultaneously, I was eating a ridiculous amount of food. So I put on a bunch of weight. So here I'm worried about having a heart issue, and I'm putting on, 10 pounds a week because of stress eating and trying to deal with the anxiety. But I was convinced. I remember one time I took a dog that we had for a walk. We had a Jack Russell Terrier. And I thought for sure I was going to have a heart attack on that walk. I was convinced. I could not catch my breath, I didn't have a fitness tracker back then, but my heart seemed to be racing, and then I remember and this is what would happen too, guys, with anxiety. The further you get away from a safe place or a safe person, the more you're going to, like if you have for me, like a fear of having a heart issue or a heart attack, that'll get worse the further you are away from help. And it's stupid, but that is, I remember that specifically. And then, when you get heavy, that doesn't put your mind at ease about having a heart attack. People who get heavy can have heart attacks. Our hearts are not meant to carry around an extra 150 pounds. So that fed into that aspect of health anxiety. I also, obviously, guys, I was worried about testicular cancer. I was worried about esophageal cancer. Again, because of the horrible, horrible heartburn. That heartburn, you hear the term heartburn, it felt like someone had poured acid down my throat. So, I mean, really, guys, like I'd had heartburn in my life before. You take some Tums or whatever. That's not what this was. This was raging. And of course, it was because of the stress. It was because I was stuck in fight or flight. But that made me think, for a while, I was convinced I had esophageal cancer. And I remember doing the Google searches about Barrett's esophagus. I could go on and on and on, guys. I'm telling you, I should take the MCATs to see if I could pass, because of how much of my life I have wasted on looking up these different conditions. Obviously, you guys who watch my BFS videos, the benign fasciculation videos, fasciculation syndrome videos that I've done, know that I have wasted large portions of my life worrying about potentially having ALS. And that was especially insidious because it'll feed itself, and you'll start, all kinds of things it'll take on a life of its own. Just like I got out of breath because of my bad breathing and I thought it was my heart, with the muscle twitching there, your muscles start twitching and you start thinking about it, and my tongue was twitching. So I start slurring words. I If I drop something, no, yeah, we drop stuff all the time. People just drop stuff, right? I mean, I'll cop to this, okay? As much as I've been a really good athlete in my life, I also been kind of a clumsy dude. So, me dropping something should not really make me concerned at all. But if you have health anxiety and you've been having muscle twitches, oh, he dropped something. Oh, there goes the grip strength, And again, looking back at these, and I'll go through, there's a few more here. And there was probably some that I didn't even write down. But this looks funny in retrospect. But for those of you who've gone through health anxiety, there is zero funny about it. Nothing funny. Because you end up being convinced that you have whatever dreaded disease you are worried about having. You end up swearing on everything that you must have it. The doctors are wrong and you have it. I've been there. I've been that convicted before, guys. And I know how terrible it is and how it just destroys your life. So with, of course, ALS, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, any of the neurological conditions like that, I was worried I had. And not just worried, but, like, you get on the internet, okay, I think I figured it out. Oh, really? You figured it out, huh? Not the doctors who ran the tests, not the people who spend, 8 years of their life, doing this stuff. But you, on your, search on Google, you figured out what was wrong. So it's really silly when you're able to use your logical mind on it, but when you're in a state of fight or flight, heightened anxiety, and it happens to focus on your health, using your logical mind is nearly impossible. There are some tricks that you can do to tap into the logical mind and to prove to yourself that, as ridiculous as it seems, that anxiety is causing these symptoms, but it is no joke. So yeah, multiple sclerosis, and then another thing, and I think, guys, and I'd be lying if I tell you these things aren't still in my mind sometimes. Blood clots, aneurysms, stuff like that, right? And the fact of the matter is, there is zero reason for anyone to worry about those things. Not because they never happen, but because there's really no, if you're fortunate enough, there's a few people, a very small percentage of people with blood clots and aneurysms. Blood clots, it's a little different, but with aneurysms, there's a very fortunate few that have some symptoms before it happens, and they're able to get, the thin bulge in the blood vessel repaired. But so often it's completely asymptomatic. You're doing something where you're straining the blood vessel, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're sleeping, and it bursts. And if you happen to be in a situation where you get medical help in time, they might be able to save you, or they might not. It's about the same as worrying about being struck by lightning, or things like that. Being eaten by a shark. It's about the same, because there's really not a lot you can do if with the shark thing, you can stay out of the ocean. I have a daughter who is obsessed with sharks, so that's why I thought of that. But anyways. Yeah, so that was like the last thing. And the reason why I was worried about, blood clots and aneurysms, again, sometimes my breathing, I would feel like maybe I had asthma, and this I probably did, right? Because I've been diagnosed with allergies. But, and then the aneurysm thing, you have so many headaches when you have anxiety. And sometimes they're really sharp, right? They call them ice pick headaches sometimes, and you hear stories about, it's an aneurysm in it. But the bottom line is, almost for sure it's not. And if it is, you're going to have to kind of be at the mercy of circumstance as to whether or not you're going to survive it. That's just the reality. And it is actually stupid to spend your time worrying about stuff like that. So that's just a list of that I could think of off the top of my head about how my health anxiety's gone over the years. Of course, my most recent battle with health anxiety was 2020 and 2021 when I was worried about, again, having ALS because of the increase in muscle twitches and different things. But, you know, it's one of those things you always got to stay on top of, health anxiety, because you gotta, and it's actually a blessing in a way to have health for your anxiety to focus on your health, because I can look back at this piece of paper and remember how convinced I was at certain times in my life that I had these conditions. And it is absolutely 100% been proven that I did not have any of these. If I did, I would not be here. So, you know, health anxiety is one of those anxieties that you can actually pin down. So it's in that sense, it's good. It's a good way to be able to do your own therapy on yourself. And before I wrap up the video, just a couple of tricks that I've done over the years. Like if I feel something starting to get to that point. First of all, I just want to encourage you guys, if you actually have some new symptom going on, go to your doctor, have it checked. You know, that's the logical thing to do in that regard. Don't worry about it and not go, because people with health anxiety have either a tendency to go to the doctor for everything because they're worried they have something, or never go because they're convinced that they're going to get a death sentence. So you don't want to do that. You just let logic be your guide. If there's something that, you know, is something that should be looked into, you know, tell your doctor about it and get it checked. But what I have noticed over the years, what a trick that I do now, if I notice that I'm starting to perseverate on a specific symptom or a specific twitch, or I will deliberately try to think of something else, like almost like implant another idea in my head about my health. And invariably, what this does is, if you can get your mind to take the bait, the thing that you're worried about, and what this worked fabulously with, I was convinced again that I had, you know, ALS and the tongue twitching, I was slurring my words. But when I started even to think about twitching in another part of my body and really focusing on that and how I was going to lose a function in another certain area of my body, then I noticed a dramatic lessening of the effects of the tongue twitches. I didn't feel like I was slurring my words anymore. So then you start using your logical mind. So, okay, let's say you're worried you have a brain tumor. You know, if you get a pain in your leg, try to think maybe you have a blood clot in your leg. I'm not trying to get you guys to worry about something else, but what it does is you'll notice that the symptom that you're perseverating on, that you're so convinced is, you know, means imminent death, will either completely go away or get way less, and you're going to start noticing the thing you have started to focus on. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. So this has been a trick that I've done over the years, and it does work if you can get your mind to take the bait. Guys, if you find that this just makes you worry about more things, then don't do it. And again, go see your doctor if you're worried about a serious health issue. Excuse me. If you're worried about a health issue. That's another thing. So my tips are: tap into your logical mind. Let the doctors be the doctor. Don't you be the doctor. Stay off of Google. I promise you, you're not going to find an answer on the internet. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. What you're going to find is a lot of wasted time and a lot of extra worry. And you'll find more. Here's the real stupid thing about the internet. You're going to find a lot more stuff to worry about. And you have a really intelligent, analytical, creative mind, and you're giving it this huge template of things to worry about. All these other conditions that you had never thought of before, well, guess what? Now you know about them, so now you can think about those too. And your health anxiety will, if you know about something, don't underestimate your mind and the way it can make connections. So stay off of the internet. always the big three: get your sleep, eat in a controlled way, control your diet, get exercise. The benefits of exercise are just huge. So for mental health, they're huge because, they have all the physiological benefits, but the neurotransmitters that are released and produced are exceptional with exercise, and it will really, it's the only thing, even still, that really takes the edge off for me. If I go and I spend 45 minutes killing it at the gym, the most relaxed I'm going to be that whole day is probably the half hour after that. And it's also going to be the clearest my mind is. So don't underestimate sleep, exercise, and and then also just think about, this is what I always try to do. None of us, tomorrow isn't promised for any of us. We can't really control that much. We want to think we have control over things we don't have control over. And the bottom line is, even if, let's say, you did have an aneurysm or a blood clot, and 6 months from now, do you want to spend the next 6 months worrying about something? Or, you see it's not logical. If you can get something diagnosed and taken care of, and you have a real, like I said, if you have a real symptom, get it taken care of. But what I'm telling you is, what's happened to me and what I don't want to happen to you guys is the waste of life, the waste of time that you cannot get back because you are so consumed with what is potentially wrong with you. And, at first it starts off as worry, and then it turns into this strange conviction that you're going to die a horrible death. You just don't want to go down that rabbit hole, and you don't want to lose those years of your life. You just don't want to do that. Trust me. From someone who's tortured themselves with health anxiety, you don't want to go there. So control what you can control. With your health, you want to take care of yourself. Get your exercise, get your sleep. Sleep is so important. Manage your stress, right? There's things that we know are really unhealthy. And if you avoid these things, there's a good chance you're going to live to a ripe old age. And worrying that you're not is not going to change anything. I promise you. The only thing the worrying might do is expedite things, unfortunately. Because, stress takes its toll, unfortunately. So, I know, and by the way, when I'm talking like this, guys, I'm talking as much to myself as I am to you. Don't think I'm ever talking from an elevated platform. I have learned over the last 22 years how to manage these conditions, but I still have to do the therapy myself. I still have to remind myself to use my logical mind, and I'm never talking down to anyone, because these conditions are really bad and can take somebody who's really strong and really smart and make them feel really weak and, really ignorant. So I definitely am not, don't ever take anything I'm saying as casting judgment or anything like that, because I'm not. I know how bad these conditions are. And if you are down in health anxiety, in a really bad place with health anxiety right now, know this: you're going to come out of it. And remember, it's anxiety. You're stuck in fight or flight, but you will come out of it if you get treatment, if you do therapy, if you do the things you need to do to get out of it. If you tap into your logical mind, you're going to come out of it, and you're going to feel the way you want to again. I try to look at it as, when there is some truth in the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I also think it makes you smarter, right? Or at least wiser. And that's what you want to learn. You learn from, one thing I look back at is the wasted time. That's what I look back at when I'm thinking of my regrets. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I wasted all this time and none of these things I was worried about happened or were true. you know? And guys, when the stuff does happen, it's not as bad as the worry, you know? So anyways, that's about all I want to say in the video. Guys, thanks so much for the engagement with the channel. Like, share, subscribe. If you know anybody who's dealing with health anxiety or any of the of the anxiety spectrum conditions, have them take a look at the channel. There's a lot of videos on here. Might help them realize what's going on with them. At least make them feel like they're not alone. But, you know, that's the whole purpose in my channel. So thank you guys so much. And until my next video, take care.